What did you think this was going to look like? Right? Spot where when we're working on rewiring our nervous system, we think it's going to look a certain way. And oftentimes I ask people when we're in process rewiring something in their nervous system, what did you think this was going to look like? Right? That's part of how we get stuck. It's part of how we get stuck in the automation and we're actually not able to rewire. And I know this from my own personal experience as well. So I want to break down a few places where we can kind of begin to reframe that before you start doing work on shifting something in your system. Remembering that it's a protection. When we're working with our nervous system, we have many protectors that are going to come in and try to keep things exactly the same. This also ties into the spot where we've all heard this one. Our brain wants to be right more than it wants to be well. It will choose the same predictable, unhealthy, toxic, messy pattern over the new healed pattern because it knows this old messy pattern, right? It will choose comfort, and our comfort zone is always small. It's the smallest zone we exist in, and yet our brain will choose our comfort zone over the stretch that it takes to push past fear, right? One of the barriers to stretching out of our comfort zone is breaking through that fear layer, and then like to actually have to grow and expand ourselves into more. These are automations, and that's what I'm talking about when I talk about like, what did you think it would look like? Right? Because we're talking about the groove and the automation that's taking place and trying to let go of it. There's also a place where our mind is going to be very believable. This is another place that keeps us stuck because it's going to pull up things that have a good chunk of like what seems kind of logical to them. And again, it's like part of the trap for just staying with, I want to be right about this. I want to be correct. I'd rather stay in a comfort zone that I know than transform into something new. And the other thing I try to tell people that so many don't like, and I hesitated to put in this video, is just your mind will lie to you about things. Your mind, especially when you're hitting a moment where your nervous system is starting to get activated, which is what has to happen for us to grow and expand and push past fear. We have to be like activated. There has to be more going on inside of us to change. As that starts to happen, sometimes it'll start filling in with things. It'll start adding assumptions and like adding extra stuff, and it'll start to create a story about what's happening that's not really happening. Our brain can time travel. It can create things in the future and it can rewrite stories of the past. It can even make up stuff that's happening in the present moment, right? Like in actual reality, it can make up things. And like this is part of why I work with people on having a good embodiment practice, is because when you drop into your body, it is in the present moment. So it can be a great tool to lean into your body, to drop down and in your body, to use sensation, right? One of the grounding practices is to use your five senses, right? Smell, sight, taste, touch, and hearing, right? Like our auditory senses to be able to ground us in the present moment. Our body is giving us that information and it can help us be here and give us a chance to snap out of that story. So the next thing I kind of want to add to this spot of like, what did you think it would look like to transform is kind of touching on something I mentioned a little bit, which is it's going to be activating. I think a lot of people have this idea in their mind where it's like healing is going to look so calm and peaceful, right? Like my background right now. And it's not. Healing is going to be irritating and agitating. And that irritation and agitation is something that you're going to have to come to terms with if you want to break the stories in your mind that are keeping you stuck. But they're keeping you there because they don't want to drop in and feel the pain. And pain, the pain of grief, and just the pain that is in our body from trauma or hard things, loss, any kind of suffering that we've had in life. Suffering is a part of all humans' lives. It gets trapped inside of us. And so all of this stuff comes online to keep us from touching that pain. And one of the things that we have to start to understand on the front end so we don't freak out and have all those protectors come in to like handle things so that we can actually relax and surrender into transforming and changing and growing is to just remember it's not going to feel good at first. Right? At first, it's going to feel agitating. It's going to feel scary, that fear layer that we have to break through. Our mind is going to start coming up with all these scary things, and it's going to tell us stuff that's not true, right? It might tell us that we're slipping, we're going backwards, we're really losing it. That's one of the most convincing ones, is the one where it's like the minute we start to feel that, we actually think we're going in the wrong direction when really that is the right direction, right? It's like a trap. It's like, no, 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 you're going backwards. Stop. Don't do this. And it's like, that is the only door that is going to get you through the exit into something new. That is absolutely the direction you need to go. It is the opposite of what your mind starts to tell you. One of the other spots that comes up with like, what did you think it would look like? Is also the spot where it can be really hard to get into some of these stuck places and blind spots and dark corners that hold our pain and keep us stuck alone. It oftentimes is going to take someone else. And so we can seek out people in our life, right? Like we can choose to hire a guide, a coach, a therapist. We can choose to bring someone in and specifically have that relationship where it's like, yes, one person is leading another person. Um, but sometimes we don't choose. Sometimes life just brings these people to us, and it can be our family members, it can be friends, it can be coworkers, it can be professional encounters, and quite often it ends up being romantic interest, right? Like it ends up being in the land of intimacy because that type of connection gets to deeper things. So a lot of times people will put off connecting in that realm because they're like, I subconsciously, I don't want to have that touched. I don't want something to come in and touch that place inside of me and like trigger the re-emerging of my pain. I don't want to be with those things. And so they'll try to like block certain things, right? They won't hire the guide or get help. They'll push their family away. They'll stop dating altogether because they just have this sense that I can't be with that right now. And it can be really surprising when we start to let certain people back in, like when we start to soften and let people in and it starts to feel good. And we're like, oh, this person gets me, right? This is someone I trust. And we like develop a friendship with them and we become close, or we reconnect with a family member that we lost touch with, or we find a new love interest, a new intimate person in our life, or even we work for a long time with like a coach or a guide. It can be long or short, actually, but we work with these people and we start to think, oh, I feel so much better around this person. And then very quickly after we start to feel so much better around this person, oftentimes right on the other side of that, our stuff starts to show up, right? Like all the little things we haven't felt in so long, things that are so old, things we haven't felt in years, decades, things from childhood, right? This little stuff starts to just bubble up, bubbling up, bubbling up. And it's like, what did you think it was going to be like? Did you think you were going to be able to have connection without touching that? Did you think you were going to be able to receive without clearing stuff out? Like, what did you really think it was going to be like? And it can be such an empowering question to come back to. And it's something I definitely use in my life. And then you start to be like, okay, well, my life is starting to be in a good place. I'm going to relax. I'm going to open up and socialize and connect more. And then the more filled up and connected we get, the more these little things start to show up that we were completely unaware of when we were focusing our attention in another spot. So I bring this up today partly because I know for myself, I've had to remind myself over and over that phrase of, what did I think this was going to look like? Right. And I just keep coming back to, oh, my mind had thoughts about how it was going to go, to start to connect and start to open to being closer to people. And then there's the reality of how it was going to go. And this is a blessing, right? This is a good thing that is happening. It is good that this is bringing me access to parts of myself that I couldn't touch when I was just living, alone in my life in Florida. I couldn't get to those things. And so it is always a good thing. And if you can reframe it with that, you can be with it and you can really work through it. I always try to share from my own stories because I think that's a good way to let people gauge what it is that I'm saying and why it is I feel confident about bringing these topics up because they're part of my lived reality and my lived experience. But I would say also, just in the past 2 weeks' time, I've had a number of other people show up struggling with this topic. So I feel like we're spending a lot of time around family, we're traveling, we're taking our nervous system to the edge at a time when really we should be like focused on resting and going slower. We're like kind of amping things up. And so many people are having these experiences where it's like, you asked for this. This is what you wanted, this transformation. What did you think it was going to look like? Such a powerful question. And it lets you get inside of these patterns and grooves that are part of what keeps you stuck. And noticing what keeps us stuck is valuable because it will show up again. One of the other things I will also bring up here about like the what did you think it would look like is that oftentimes when a person shows up to help us feel something, like when we need connection to another human to help us feel, whether it's professional connection or personal connection, there can be this moment where we want to turn and villainize that person for making us feel something painful and old, and having that narration start running in our head that says, I'm going backwards. This person's just like everyone else, blah, blah. It gets really loud up there. But I will tell you this, those people are such a gift. It is such a gift, and it is kind and loving for people to show up in our lives, whether they are consciously showing up to help us go in and find those spots, or whether subconsciously, like they didn't even realize that them showing up was going to bring that out in us, it's still such a blessing. And if you can just start to reframe a few of the little things that I brought up in this video, and remember to ask yourself, what did I think this would look like? In that moment where you start to get spun up and your nervous system is activated and you're wanting to deploy one of your protective mechanisms, ask yourself the question, what did I think it would look like? That was one of the most powerful things I did, is I just kept asking myself, what did I think this would look like? This is a gift. This is a gift that I'm getting to touch this. And that's what allowed me to continue to stay present and not go into protection and not have my brain start lying and filling in blanks with things. It allowed me to stay with the process and the practice of opening myself up, like opening my heart up, opening myself up to receive new connection, because I was also opening myself up to let go of the things that needed to come out. So, as always, I love to hear from you guys. You can message me, you can comment, you can like this video, and I love you.